Now we'll take a look at another element of soccer, the field. And since your fields are basically fixed during games, what we'll be talking about for the most part will be your training situation, what goes on at practice. The first thing you can control about the field at your practices is the number of fields. Here's a situation, well actually two situations, of a team of 12 players. They come to train and you can set up 3 fields for 2 versus 2. They play there for a while and then you can change the game and have 2 fields of 3 versus 3. Now what they're learning here is much different than what they're learning there. But there's going to be a transfer and a carryover between the two forms. The next thing you need to consider after you figure out how many fields you're going to use will be what size the field should be. And for that, just keep this in mind. It's called the Goldilocks rule. This field is too big. And this field is too small. And this field is just right. Because it's only on a just right field that your game is going to work. When we looked at the video on the phases of learning and talked about the orientation phase of the game, this is one of the key things to watch for. Is the field the right dimensions for the kids? Can they adjust to it, or is it something you need to adjust for them? Because you're going to need to make that decision. If they cannot adapt to the field, you need to make a change. Now what are the consequences when the field is too large? When the field's too big, the kids lack the physical capacity to play on it. And what happens is that the game gets too slow. It's too hard to defend. The ball gets played out into spaces, one player will go chase it and bring it back in, and the game basically starts to slow to a crawl. When the field is too small, the kids don't have the time and space to make decisions and to play, and they get under too much pressure. It's too high a level of stress. Now what are the factors in deciding how big a field should be? Well, one factor is age. What's right for 12-year-olds is not going to be right for 6-year-olds. The physical capacity of the 12-year-olds is much higher than the 6-year-olds. And also the soccer age. Kids that have been playing at, say, U12, U13, and have been playing for a number of years, have a high level of technical ability, they're going to be able to play in a much smaller space than kids who are just basically picking up the game or have very little capacity. All right, the surface of the field. How fast is the field? If it's one of those bone-hard, rock-hard fields, the ball may travel very quickly, and you may need some extra space for that. Now, one thing that we see quite a bit of in youth soccer is the too big too soon philosophy, or the too big too soon message that coaches and parents send to administrators all over. Basically, it comes down to this. I have a kid that can kick the ball off the field. We need to have a larger field because obviously the field's too small. Well, it's not so obvious. If you had a quarterback who could throw the ball from their end zone through the other end zone, you wouldn't say, we need to make the field larger. You would simply say, maybe he needs to connect the pass to someone else. Simply making the field larger to accommodate the natural growth and maturation doesn't necessarily answer the problems that the players have. Ball possession is a major concern, and that argument that they can kick the ball off the field can also be viewed as they don't understand we need to hold on to the ball. They don't understand that players need to move into positions to receive the ball. They don't understand that the player in possession needs to pass the ball so it can be handled by their teammate. Those are all learning objectives. Making the field larger will not help. Another thing to consider is the orientation of the field. The fields don't have to be laid out, especially for training, as some kind of a perfect rectangle with the proper dimensions and all that. This is one example of a field that would be very long and very narrow. There's basically all the play goes north and south. Very little can go east and west. This game teaches kids the counter-attacking type of play. So the the orientation of the field itself is the lesson that the kids have to master. Now the layout on this field is that it's very shallow and very wide. This is a game that helps kids to learn midfield play and changing direction, especially when you incorporate multiple goals, which we'll talk about that when we talk about the goals. So here the game, there's very little chance to go north-south. If they're going to build up, they need to go east-west and to change the direction from there. Now here's a game where the fields are, in this case, somewhat of an oval, and they actually overlap in the center. You'd have 3 versus 3 here, or 4 versus 4, and 3 versus 3, or 4 versus 4 over there. What happens is that on this red field, the space on the left side, going in this direction, is shared by the right field. And the same thing over here on the blue field, or on the left field. On the blue field here, their space on their right side is shared by that field. So what you have is a very chaotic situation in here, and the crafty players, the sharp players, are going to start looking to use the other game to help them manage their own problems. They'll look to have other players set a pick, or just basically get in the way. So this is, once again, just a situation where you change the orientation of the field. Fields can be divided, and certain restrictions, rules can be put into place to help the kids learn different things. Just one very simple example. A line across midfield, blue's going towards the top goal, and the rules are that for blue to score a goal, every player on the blue team must be in the opponent's half before they can score. And the same thing could apply to red as well, so that red has to play there. That eliminates the kids holding back. It conditions the game and sets a limitation up within the field for the kids to have to deal with, so it gives them a specific problem. The field can also be divided into channels, so it's going lengthwise, different situations for different learning opportunities. Basically, the field has flexibility, and as a coach you need to look at the field as something that you can manipulate to create a problem for the kids to solve, and then make adjustments to it so that you can make the problem easier or harder.